This 100% safe and natural ritual that has turned my wife's life around and given her back her lean, alluring figure and stress-free body is something that I have to share with the world because it's too important to hide. And until now, that's been the problem. This simple secret has been right under our noses, but kept hidden from us by the authorities we trusted to make us better. But not anymore, because in the next 4 minutes, you'll discover why everything you thought you knew about weight and fat loss was a big lie. You'll feel shocked and disgusted when a former government-funded research scientist turns whistleblower. He exposes the 3 biggest weight loss lies touted by doctors and weight loss experts around the world, and why, in my opinion, all their diet and exercise plans are doomed to fail. I will reveal the dangerous foreign compound that's floating through your veins right now, the real root cause of your stubborn belly fat, and the 7-second hack that you can do tonight to rid yourself of it, allowing your body to start burning fat, detoxifying and reducing the resulting damage, support heart health, and help to maintain healthy blood pressure and sugar levels. Plus, I'll show you scientific studies from the Ivy League colleges that show that what I'm saying is right. The truth is, there are very few people who know about this simple, all-natural breakthrough. But if you want an easy and proven method for burning off body fat hour by hour, a method you can start using right now and only requires 7 seconds a day, I urge you to watch this entire video while you still can. Because this solution has already worked for 74,820 people, and that number is rising rapidly by the day. I even used this simple hack on myself to drop 4 inches from my waist and reveal the abs again I hadn't seen in years. I feel fantastic, and I'm certain it'll also work for you, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're 18 or 80, whether you have more than 100 pounds to lose or you just want to drop those last stubborn 10 pounds that have been plaguing you, whether you think you have a slow metabolism or bad genetics, and regardless of whether you've tried every diet and exercise plan under the sun, or simply worried about future health complications. I understand if you don't believe it. In fact, due to all the blatant lies and misinformation that's running rampant in the health and weight loss world, you should be skeptical. But all I can say is that if you're ready to hear the truth about weight loss, backed by high-quality, scientific research, then you've come to the right place. But it's absolutely crucial that you keep watching this video right now to the end, because I honestly don't know how much longer I can keep it up. You see, the health and fitness industry is worth a staggering $250 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B. And the truth is, I believe it's in their interest to keep you fat and unhealthy. Meal plans, diet shakes, weight loss programs, fitness equipment, meal deliveries, gym memberships, extreme exercise, you name it, they'll sell it to you. All designed to part you from your hard-earned money. But in my opinion, never help you lose weight. Only treating the symptoms, but never offering a solution for the root cause. Keeping you a customer for life. The last thing they want is for you to discover the secret I'm about to reveal. Information that may very well save your life or that of someone you love. I'll show you the 7-second hack that allowed my wife Amy to effortlessly lose the stubborn body fat that had plagued her for years, boosting her energy levels, and in turn, revitalizing our sex life and marriage. Today, I'm offering you the chance to rid that old self-conscious you forever and feel confident no matter what situation life throws you. To never worry about people judging or ridiculing. To shed stubborn fat like clockwork from your hips, belly, arms, waist, thighs, and face. No longer having to worry about what your partner really thinks when they see you naked but are too polite to tell you. And the shame you feel when people watch you eat. Instead, you'll be able to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, without guilt or embarrassment. Your body starts to melt away the deadly visceral fat around your organs. Old baggy clothes you wore to hide your body are replaced with slim, figure-hugging, sexy ones you could have never dreamed of. Your energy, vitality, and enthusiasm returns to you in abundance. and you start to look younger as the glow and elasticity of youth returns to your skin and body, leaving you happier, healthier, and feeling more sexy than you have in years, even decades. Now is the time for you to free yourself from that stubborn fat once and for all. If that sounds good to you, then you'll want to stick around to the very end, because I promise you, you can melt away those extra pounds with nothing more than my crazy once-a-day 7-second routine. You see, China has always been a nation of thin and healthy people. We took pride in this fact, he told me. And the government had enlisted our department to find the cause of the obesity epidemic that had suddenly exploded over the past decade. Something had drastically changed. People were getting more and more overweight, and even obesity rates in children had spiraled out of control. We spent years poring through thousands and thousands of published scientific studies from throughout the world trying to find some kind of link. And what we eventually discovered was truly shocking. It wasn't actually diet or lack of exercise that was causing the problem. You see, there was one thing that didn't add up with all of the conclusions and recommendations that the doctors were making, he told me. A person doing the same level of exercise and eating exactly the same number of calories in 2006 as in 1988 would have a BMI almost 2.5 points higher. This equals a whole extra 10% of body mass. They also don't explain those annoyingly thin people that can eat whatever they want, do no exercise, and never gain an ounce. Yet most of us just have to look at a burger and put on 10 pounds. How does that figure in the calories in, calories out model? You know those massive corporations? The ones who sell you healthy shakes, meals, and exercise plans? They know full well that they don't work. All of the countless medical studies make this abundantly clear to anyone who has bothered to look. And I assure you they have looked. You see, the whole industry is a giant fraud. Its only purpose is to separate you from your hard-earned money. They don't care that it doesn't work. In fact, they don't want it to work, because that way they can keep selling you their stuff. Their business model will be destroyed if the world finds out they can break free and lose weight naturally without their useless diets and exercises. It's big business, and a business they will fight to protect. One big lie that costs us over $250 billion each year. Sure, you may lose a few pounds in the first weeks or months with their plans, but research shows that 95% regain that lost weight within 1 year, and most put on even more on top. Which brings us to the big weight loss lie number 1. That dieting helps you lose weight. It doesn't. A huge study involving over 4,500 subjects found that among both men and women, irregular eating and continuous attempts to lose weight were the 2 key factors that actually predicted weight gain. You see, in the distant past, we didn't have access to 7-Elevens or Whole Foods. We never knew when we were going to get the next meal. So when we got food, our body had to somehow find a way to make it last until whenever it thought the next time was going to be. We evolved to store the energy as fat, meaning we could still stay active and alive when there was no food available, even for days. It used our hormones, the body's chemical messenger, to regulate this. So that's why when you starve or deprive yourself of particular nutrients, including fats and carbs, your hormones will tell you to eat and store as much as possible to prepare for the famine it thinks is about to happen. Therefore, eating less actually causes you to store fat. So, in order to actually lose weight and keep it off forever, you need to deal with your hormones, not your food. Something we'll talk about in more detail in a minute. Which brings us to big weight loss lie number 2. This one was shocking to me, and it's related to exercise. I mean, how often do you hear that to lose fat, you must grind away hour upon hour of tedious exercise? The thinking goes that exercise helps you burn calories, so helps you lose weight. While this may sound like logical sense, it simply isn't true. A study published in the American Journal of Medicine that reviewed and analyzed 14 randomized controlled trials of over 1,800 people concluded that isolated aerobic exercise is not an effective weight loss therapy in obese or overweight patients. This is thought to be due to people tending to vastly overestimate how much energy they actually burn so end up overcompensating. Excessive exercise also causes an increase in cortisol, also known as the stress hormone, which has been shown to encourage fat storage, particularly around the belly and face. So, in other words, all those hours of grinding away hour upon boring hour on the exercise cycle can be for nothing, even though that's exactly what most trainers and weight loss companies recommend. And with that, big weight loss lie number 3. Overweight and obese people have a slower metabolism. This is not only totally false, but the exact opposite is true. Research shows that overweight people have a faster metabolism than thinner people. This is because larger bodies require more energy to carry out basic functions. Certain crash diets and other calorie-restricted ones can actually slow your metabolism down. Your body is forced to break down muscle to use for energy. The lower your muscle mass, the slower your metabolism. It then becomes a lot easier to put fat back on after coming off the diet. So if you've been told these 3 things before, that lack of exercise, not dieting enough, or a sluggish metabolism is the reason you're overweight, you've been purposely lied to. These factors have no influence whatsoever on the long-term number on your scale, because they don't address the real root cause. What is the real root cause? What you think is a glass of fresh, clean water is actually teeming with little foreign particles, and these are what's making us fat. You see, this water contains millions of microscopic pieces of plastic. And this plastic is made up of chemicals that can actually cause you to store fat. Plastic, I asked? How do you know there's plastic in it? It's in practically all drinking water on the planet. You see, when plastic is disposed of, it can't biodegrade. But what happens is that over time it starts to break down into smaller and smaller pieces, eventually becoming what is known as microplastics. These particles of plastics are so tiny that you can't even spot them with the naked eye. But they are now everywhere, in our rivers, our seas, our fish, even the very air you breathe. They've even been found in rain, and filtration systems can't remove them because they're too small, so they end up in our tap water. And here is something that will shock you. The average person unknowingly eats, swallows, and breathes in thousands of tiny pieces of plastic each week, an amount that equals the weight of a credit card. A week! Now, stay with me here for a minute, because this is where it gets very interesting. Plastic is found all over the world in millions of different products, and scientists are only just now beginning to understand how harmful it can be. You see, it's made up of many different chemicals, some of which are obesogens, meaning they make you fat. Obesogens are chemicals that are endocrine or hormonal disruptors. They wreak havoc on your hormone health. That includes those hormones that control hunger and how many calories you consume get burned right away and how many are stored as fat. A shocking 2015 Canadian study also found that when normal stem cells are exposed to obesogens, they can actually mutate into fat cells. Another study in Japan confirmed this by showing cells which would normally become connective tissue became fat cells when obesogens were added. This is what happens when regular stem cells are exposed to obesogens. They turn into fat cells and expand instantly. Shocking, right? And that's what obesogens found in microplastics are doing to your body all day long. That's why it's so hard to lose weight no matter what you try. And it's the reason that keeping the pounds off long term is almost impossible. Now, there are many types of obesogens, of which bisphenol A, or BPA as it's known, is one of the most widely known. BPA can be found in thousands of different types of products, from kids' toys, clothing, cosmetics like body wash, shampoo, and toothpaste, all the way up to food packaging, canned goods, and even baby bottles. A team from the Department of Neuroscience in Ontario found that when they fed mice low doses of BPA, far lower than the amounts considered to be safe by the FDA, their hormones started freaking out and they quickly ballooned in size. Some countries have even taken the step of banning BPA in anything that comes in contact with food. But the chemicals they have replaced it with are arguably worse. And it's not just plastics that contain these obesogens. They are also found in your car exhaust fumes, especially diesel, as well as in commonly used pesticides, and even the nonstick coating on pots and pans we cook with. That's why it's almost impossible to avoid exposure. And countless studies have directly linked these obesogens to excessive ghrelin, leptin, hunger, and obesity, regardless of age, genetics, diet, metabolism, or even activity level. So your hunger pangs and weight gain has been scientifically proven to be unstoppable because of these man-made chemicals that are floating throughout your body, wreaking havoc with your hormones and causing normal cells to turn into expanded fat cells. Just consider the following. This graph shows the rise in obesity rates over the years. Like I said, obesity was pretty much non-existent before the 1950s. But fast forward to today, 72% of us are overweight. Now, look at this. The blue line shows the rise in synthetic chemical production over the years, and the red one, the rates of diabetes. Notice how they match almost exactly. So I spent every waking moment researching to find a solution. Going through years and years of medical studies, it was a long, hard struggle. But I eventually made a breakthrough. And it came from a very unusual place. I stumbled across an article in a scientific journal. It wrote of a small village in the outskirts of Tibet. The people there seemingly had the lowest rates of diabetes and heart disease in the world. And their average life expectancy was 25% higher than anywhere else. But no one could figure out why. This was extremely interesting because it seemed to confirm the direct link between toxic pollution and people's health, as it's likely these villagers haven't been exposed to many obesogenic compounds. I mean, everything I'd heard about Tibet makes me think of pristine snow-capped mountains and fresh, clean water and air. But when I got to the end of the article, I discovered something that threw me. Apparently, located right next to this village was a large Chinese mining operation. And I know how much pollution they produce, so that theory was out the window. I decided the best thing was to go and investigate for myself. So I made the long trek to the Tibetan village. When I arrived, I settled into a small guest house and went about befriending the locals and trying to uncover what was happening. Their air and water was indeed heavily polluted from the close mine. But the people seemed very healthy, and I noticed that very few were overweight. Many of them also looked years younger than their true ages. The more I looked around, the more apparent it was that something really strange was up. But I couldn't figure out what. Then one morning, the landlady of the guest house offered me a cup of tea. I accepted, and after she poured, I took a big swig and instantly spat it out all over her beautiful white tablecloth. "I am so sorry, but what is this? It tastes awful," I exclaimed. It was clearly not like any kind of tea that I had ever tasted. The landlady was extremely embarrassed and apologized profusely. She explained that this was their local special tea. And legend was that if you drank a cup of it every day, you would be protected and live a long and healthy life, and that it would ward off all sickness and pain. The people of the village had drank it for generations, so were used to the strong, bitter taste. "Where did you get it from?" I asked. She told me that it's a traditional blend that has been brewed in the local monastery for thousands of years. The monks sold it to the villagers and then would use any money they made to feed and house the poor. I asked if she could give me directions, and I set off. I made my way up a narrow stone staircase set into a steep hill to the monastery in the distance. When I eventually arrived at its large wooden doors, I rang an old rusty bell hanging from a piece of rope. After several minutes, they creaked open and a friendly-looking monk greeted me. I told him that I was very interested in learning about the tea. "It's our secret elixir," he whispered. "The recipe has been passed down through generations, and it has magical healing properties." I was, of course, very skeptical, but asked if I could perhaps buy some. He nodded, asked me to wait, and disappeared inside. A couple of minutes later, he returned, clutching a small wooden box. He handed it to me, and I peered inside, discovering a strange-smelling mixture of what looked like ground herbs and spices. "What's it made of?" I inquired. "Unfortunately, that's something I can't reveal," the monk replied. It has been our traditional recipe for over 2,000 years, and it is a grave violation of the monastic code for me to share the ingredients with anyone." "No problem," I said. "I completely understand. How should I prepare it?" "Just stir a heaped spoonful of the mixture into the cup of warm water and let it sit for 7 seconds. No more, no less," he told me. I paid him, gave my thanks, and set off back to the guest house. The next morning, I packed and headed home, clutching the small wooden box close to me. The minute I arrived, I went straight to the lab and began trying to reverse engineer the contents, and I was very surprised at what I discovered. The first ingredient was Asian green tea leaf. Green tea is actually great at reducing oxidative stress and has been shown in several laboratory studies to help reduce damage caused by chemicals such as BPA. It has also been shown to stimulate glucuronidation, a detoxification pathway used for eliminating toxins from the body. The next ingredient was something called Asian ginseng, also known as Panax ginseng. According to scientific research, it enhances mood, supports immunity, and delays the appearance of aging. But more importantly, research shows that it also detoxifies the body quickly from foreign pollutants. Next up, I identified olive leaves, an agonist to the TGR5 receptor. This means it can boost your metabolism by supporting thyroid function and your body's hormone levels. And in addition, I found several other important active compounds, including quercetin, a well-known super antioxidant that can help protect cells from damage by the free radicals that are slowing down your metabolism and causing premature signs of aging. Turmeric, shown to reverse many of the harmful effects of chemical exposure and dramatically decreasing oxidative stress throughout the body. And various types of Asian mushrooms, including shiitake, reishi, and maitake, all of which are chock full of hypolipemic fat-reducing properties. It also contained grapeseed, which detoxifies your body of cadmium, a harmful obesogen that can be found in foods like cereals, nuts, and vegetables. "I couldn't believe what I was seeing," exclaimed Chen. Here were all natural ingredients that, when combined, managed to seemingly counteract the harmful effects of toxic obesogens. And these monks that made it for generations probably didn't even know what an obesogen was. It seemed to support healthy hormone levels, reduce fat storage, and stop the uncontrollable cravings, whilst at the same time helping to support a healthy heart, brain, and joints. That would explain why the villagers who, even though they lived in a toxic environment, managed to live longer, seem younger, and were of a healthier weight. I was still skeptical but excited at the same time. But above all, I wanted to help my friends and family, explained Chen. I knew all the ingredients in the tea were natural and had been taken successfully for generations by the villagers, who managed to live a long and healthy life, so I was positive it wasn't dangerous. I asked my good friend and neighbor who had been seriously overweight for years if he'd be willing to put it to the test. He was more than happy to give anything that might work a try, so I mixed him a cup of the foul-tasting tea every evening. The results? Well, they were more than spectacular. In just 3 days, he had higher energy, better mood, and felt an increased zest for life. And by the end of the first week, he'd lost over 5 pounds. He hadn't made a single change to his lifestyle. He didn't do any exercise, didn't change his diet, still eating all the unhealthy foods he loved so much. How is this possible? Maybe it was the placebo effect, I rationalized, and he was going to regain the lost weight quickly. Yet by the end of the second week, he dropped another 5 pounds. And after just 1 month, he'd lost over 20. The results were totally incredible. Unfortunately, the supply from the monk had almost run out, and I needed more to give to my friends and family. Me too. So I set about making a new batch. I even improved on it by adding in several other natural ingredients that I was sure would make it even more potent. One was cat's claw, an Amazonian vine that reduces fatigue while slowing down the effects of aging. And another was a superfruit from Brazil called graviola. The Brazilians use it to help them lose weight. It also increases energy levels and helps boost their immune system. The formula now contains a total of 20 natural extracts and super nutrients, making it even more powerful and effective than the monks. We have been taking it for over 3 years now, with amazing results across the board. And more importantly, 0 negative side effects. I would love to get this out there to help more people, but the risk to my family from our government is just too high. Even if I left China, we would be looking over our shoulders for the rest of our lives. While to convince Amy to try it, though. Because of all her past failures, she didn't believe anything could work. But in the end, she reluctantly agreed. So that night, I prepared the mixture for her. She took a sip and immediately started gagging. I literally had to beg her to drink the rest. She said it was the most disgusting thing she'd ever tasted, that it better work. The next morning, she told me that she'd slept better than she had in years, and had literally bounced out of bed with buckets of energy. By that same evening, something incredible had happened. Before she took her next tea, she stood on the bathroom scale and she'd lost 2 whole pounds. Still, Amy was worried that this would all be temporary and she would regain that lost weight quickly. But by the end of the second week, she had dropped another 10. And it didn't stop there, because after just 4 weeks, she had lost an incredible 67 pounds. She even went to her sister's house to step on her scale as she thought ours must be malfunctioning. She also couldn't believe her eyes when she looked in the mirror. Her stubborn love handles and belly bulge were disappearing. She started fitting into her favorite dresses that she hadn't worn in years. And her face looked younger and more radiant than it had in at least a decade. Her skin had improved, and her wrinkles and worry lines appeared to have flattened out completely. Her arms were tight again. Her hips were slender. Her stomach flat. She looked hot. Every single trace of her pregnancy fat was gone. People kept asking for her secret. Men were turning their heads to check her out. Plus, she had so much more energy, even her hair seemed shinier, fuller, and thicker, just like in high school. The doctors were shocked. They couldn't believe a transformation like this was possible without strenuous exercise and a punishing diet. But the day that the change really sunk in for me, I came home from work and saw Amy in just a pair of leggings and a sports bra. She hadn't worn clothes this tight in decades. Her tiny, flat stomach was on display while she was confidently walking through the house. She looked absolutely incredible, and something stirred inside me that I hadn't felt in years. However, I was worried she might feel self-conscious, that if I tried to give her a hug, she'd shrug me off as had happened countless times before. But I couldn't help myself, so I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her close to me. It was then that I felt an ease within her that I hadn't experienced for a very long time. She melted, looked at me with a sparkle in her eyes, started to kiss me, and then grabbed my hand and led me to the bedroom. And we had the most amazing, passionate time of our lives. As we lay there glowing in each other's arms, giddy and love again in a way we hadn't been for a very long time, neither of us could believe it. We had done it. Amy was her old self again. The excess belly, arm, legs, and hip fat that had plagued her for so long was gone. Her body was back to how it was in her 20s, and she had done it without any strenuous exercise or dieting. It was at this point that I was convinced it was a miracle. God had blessed us by revealing the most amazing health formula ever. I wanted to share it with the world. Had a natural treatment for addressing even the worst cases of uncontrolled belly fat. It contains no harmful chemicals, doesn't require a prescription, and works automatically. Your success is my only weapon against the big pharma companies, who are undoubtedly going to try hard to stop us, because they can't patent any of the natural ingredients in this formula. So trying to replicate it doesn't make any sense. It would end up costing them billions in lost profits they make by treating the symptoms and consequences rather than the root cause. We are an absolute nightmare for them. I know that they're going to do whatever they can to shut us down, blocking us from getting into the pharmacies and health food shops. That's why we've decided not to delay another day and make the formula available on this site right now. We call it Proven. It's the most powerful and effective natural detoxifier in the world. And it's the first ever all-natural treatment that targets the actual root cause of excess body fat through obesogens and pollution exposure. In fact, we're so confident that it's going to be a game changer that we took our whole life savings and found a highly reputable natural health supplement manufacturer to produce it for us. They are both GMP certified and FDA registered. And everything is made here in the U.S. to guarantee the highest possible levels of purity, potency, and safety. They source the best quality ingredients and plant extracts and manage to formulate them into small and easy-to-swallow capsules. So, no more foul-tasting tea, but the same incredible results. And we ship them straight to your door. The capsules are non-GMO and do not contain any dangerous stimulants or toxins. Because, let's be honest, you should never take risks when it comes to your health. And that's why we won't cut any corners. Losing weight with Provin is so simple and much more effective than exercise or any diet plan being pushed by the so-called fitness experts and nutritionists. 100% satisfaction guarantee, Provin is so effective that word is starting to spread extremely fast. Men and women all across the world are now discovering this amazing formula for themselves, and most are ordering a long-term supply just in case. Not just losing fat in the short term, but keeping it off for good, detoxifying their system and returning their body to its former glory. That's why there is no risk here, and there's no way you can go wrong. So if you want to get that slim and slender figure that catches eyes wherever you go, that turns your friends green with envy, then I urge you to select your package by clicking a Buy Now button below before supplies run out. I can't wait to hear about your success.